Hey everyone, welcome back to G-Man Movie Reviews. I know it's 3 days in a row. Usually it's like a month or two between reviews. But I am so excited because it's October and I had to come to you with a review of one of my favorite horror, and actually one of my all-time favorite movies, Scream. Oh, I have it upside down. Scream. Scream came out in 1996. I was still like 10 years old at the time, so I wasn't able to see it when it came out in theaters, but I remember hearing some pretty cool stuff about it, thinking it looked cool in the commercials. I probably saw it about 5 years later for the first time, and I think I remember enjoying it for the first time. I might have actually seen the sequel first, then I saw Scream a little bit later, but I grew to, kind of liking the movie, to really liking it, to now loving it. And this, to me, is the movie that got me into horror movies. I'll get more into it in a second. But Scream was directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson, stars a whole slew of people that used to be more popular than they are now, like Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox, David Arquette, Matthew Lillard, Rose McGowan, Skeet Ulrich. And the plot is a killer comes to a town in California and terrorizes and kills these teens. And yeah, it's not that amazing of a plot. If you're familiar with the horror genre, especially in the 80s, was fueled by lots of these slasher kind of movies. And then it kind of like died down a little bit in the early 90s, but Scream really reinvigorated that the horror genre for a few reasons. For one, and it's obvious, one reason I love Scream is because the script is extremely clever. Kevin Williamson wrote a great script. It's extremely self-aware of the horror genre. It's very smart, and it calls out a lot of the tropes in horror movies, and it lets that play into the story, which just makes it that much better. Because after the 80s, like, a lot of people were like, yeah, I've seen this in a slasher movie so many times. This is so boring now. Scream was clever enough to call that out and be like, yeah, we know that sucks. And we know that you are familiar with the rules. We're familiar with the rules, too, of horror movies. We're going to call them out, but still create a great story at the same time. Additionally, they, to the point of the great story, Scream's one of the first horror movies I think I've ever seen, and maybe some had done it before it, but they introduced the concept of a whodunit sort of killer. Like in a Halloween, Michael Myers is the killer. In Friday the 13th, Jason's the killer. Child's Play, Chucky's the killer. In Scream, the villain, Ghostface, has a mask on the whole time, and you're constantly thinking like, oh wow, who could it be? And it takes some clever twists and turns throughout. And yeah, it's like, even when I watch it now, I obviously know how it's going to end, but I'm just astonished by how well this movie is executed. And once again, a lot of props to the screenwriter Kevin Williamson. Another point I want to make about this movie is it has one of my favorite opening scenes of all time. It stars Drew Barrymore, and I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it. I think a lot of you have probably seen it. If you haven't, it's on Netflix right now. But the opening act came, I think, to a lot of people when it came out. It was a huge surprise the way it was executed, and I just think it's very well done. There's some great dialogue, and once again, it really does a nice job of introducing where this movie's going and how clever it's going to be. So, like I said, I love the movie Scream. I think it's such a smart movie. It's endlessly rewatchable for me. I watch it every Halloween season. And if you've seen Scream before, but you haven't watched it in a while, I do recommend checking it out again. If you've never seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. Like I said, I love this movie. I actually like the sequels a lot too. Overall, yeah, I'm going to do it. I give Scream a 10 out of 10. I've never given a 10 out of 10 before on this channel, but like I said, I watch this movie every single year and always find new ways to enjoy it. I even went a couple days ago to one of the theaters here in New York, was doing a retro screening of it because I wanted to see it with an audience. And it was just so much fun to see it as an audience. Actually, that's a funny point. One comedic area of this movie is they really call out the use of cell phones a lot, because cell phones weren't as popular in the mid-90s as they are now, and it made for some pretty interesting lines. But Anyways, not to get sidetracked, I love the movie Scream. Highly recommend you checking it out. Just like I highly recommend you subscribing to my channel. Subscribe right here. I'm going to put a link right here. Give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to come to you guys again soon with more movie reviews. Thanks again for checking out G-Man Movie Reviews, and take care.